Hello and welcome to Creating Canon with your hosts AJ Hamilton and Nickel Cadmium Fetus. And that's fetus with a PH.
You really, like your yoga is like real paying off because that was a stretch.
Yeah. No, it's I'm feeling it. Yeah, like my
toga.
Giving hammies my full attention this week.
Yeah, you're gonna need to.
Oh dear.
Wait.
Yeah, what's up, dude?
What's my name?
And Nicholas C. Pappas. Yay! Look at him, everybody.
Well, as you listeners know.
Yeah.
The fact that I have clapped after my name means this is a quarantine podcast of Creating Canon. Quarantine Canon. I'm never going to remember.
Canantine.
Canantine. Oh. Hey, Cantina.
Canantina.
Canantina.
I love it. That's perfect.
Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Well, this week on Quarantina.
Can I tell you that I am...
You can tell me.
Uniquely excited for this episode, honestly.
Why?
Because of this movie. Truly.
I'm excited to talk about this movie, too.
And please tell everyone what this movie is.
This week, AJ and I, separately, sadly, because I think this would have been an incredible watch together.
Oh, yes.
We watched American Cyborg, Steel Warrior.
From 1993.
1993 or 4, depending on if you count when it was produced or when it was released.
Who cares? It's here in the world.
Yeah, and thank God for that. This was Cannon's last theatrical release.
Yep. And they threw everything at it.
Yes, they really did.
They did.
The movie made a whopping $447,000.
Wow.
Which I feel like is criminal. It is criminal.
I wonder if it ever made it back up from any of the home video sales.
I hope so. And it should be noted that this is obviously it's the post Go-Go Boys years of Cannon, but Golan and Globus decided to get back together and produce this movie, and this is the final movie produced by Golan and Globus together.
Well, that's pretty damn sweet.
So
that's neat.
So that's an interesting thing. It's not the last movie released by Cannon Films, which we were planning on having that be the last movie that we ever do. But now that I'm speaking this out loud, what's going to be really interesting is we should have a talk about whether or not we hold this until the end of our run, which means that this podcast timestamp is May 3rd, 2020. And it might just be really, really weird that in like 2024... all of a sudden, this thing pops up.
Hey, remember quarantine, everybody? Hopefully we don't.
Hopefully we don't.
Jesus. Well, let's do it.
That's going to be a fun, weird trip down memory lane.
It really will. Well, you know it'd be cool? I think this is going to be great. What we do is we record this one, and then at the very end of the show, we record a retrospective of this to be a companion piece.
I see. So we record a secondary episode based off of American Cyborg Steel Warrior.
This will be a very special 2-part episode.
Okay.
Let's say that.
It's gonna accidentally be a 2-parter.
Well, think about it. Our perception and our understanding of what canon is going to be so much richer in years from now. Yeah. So this will be interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
I like it.
I do too. And you know what? I'm happy watching this movie again, if I'm being honest.
Hell yeah, dude. Honestly,
but that's a whole other story.
I a lot of times I come in to these movies or these episodes about these movies, and I'm like, oh man, this really frustrated me, or this really like drained me, or this one invigorated me. This one gave me life, and I want to know from you what this goddamn movie's about.
That's a great question because, you know, I thought I would actually do something a little different this time.
Oh.
Rather than tell you what this movie is about. Just have a list of movies where, as I was watching this, I thought, wait a second, that's similar to blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So, I guess here it is.
Okay.
if you liked Terminator 2, Judge Dredd, Mad Max, The Terminator, Matrix, Children of Men, Escape from New York, Alien, Blade Runner, or Never Been Kissed, have I got the movie for you. That movie, American Cyborg, Steel Warrior.
Oh, and the Warriors.
Oh, and the Warriors!
Didn't you get a little bit of that feeling?
Yes, there was definitely a Warriors vibe going on.
I'm sorry,
I'm writing that down.
I was looking down in my notes, and I was like, oh shit, right. The Warriors. Remember, I mean, with that one gang that they run into, a couple of the gangs that they run into, they're all themed and shit. It's so great.
Oh, it's so good. Well, and I should note that what is funny is, like, I wrote down Children of Men.
Yeah.
Children of Men was obviously made, I think, a decade
2005,
after this?
I think?
2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, and The Matrix was made after this movie.
Of course.
But it just was, like,
It was quintessentially an apocalyptic movie. You know, it basically took from so many different thought processes that people have had over the years, what, sort of futurists looking into what the bleakness could be.
Yeah.
And just mashing it all the fuck up.
Oh, God. And it was, I mean, I was like you, where, like, there was not one moment of this movie where I got bored. I think I sent you, because I watched it first, and I did send you a text that basically said, I think actually, let me read it.
Yes.
The text I sent you was, "This movie is trash, but it's fun. I recommend." Which, does that feel like the proper...
Oh, it absolutely is. It is quite a bit of trash.
Yes.
But it's weird because everybody feels like they are giving it their all. It's It's like kids doing a middle school play hopped up on pixie sticks.
Yeah.
And they're just like, this is going to be so good. I'm going to act the shit out of it. I am so good. They shouldn't be swearing, though. They're 7th grade.
They're 7th. Yeah, they're 7th
Jesus
graders.
Christ.
There was, and we'll get there eventually, there was a reveal in this movie where I actually was shocked by one of the reveals.
Too. And that's the weirdest thing, because you look at all of these movies that we were talking about, and that is like such a common cliche. Yes. But we will get to that, absolutely. Oh my God. This thing starts with narration, as all amazing movies do.
Yes, it does. We should mention just really quickly, this movie is a fucking Cannon Films powerhouse of a movie.
Hell yeah.
The movie was directed by Boaz Davidson, who did Lemon Popsicle and Hot Bubblegum for Menachem Golan and Yoram Globus back in Israel. Nice. Lemon Popsicle was remade as The Last American Virgin. This movie, Boaz Davidson also did X-Ray, Going Bananas, Dutch Treat, and Salsa. And it should be noted that the editor on this movie was a man named Alan
Quartermain.
Alain Jakubowicz. Or it could be Alan Jacobowitz. I don't know.
It's all good.
He edited Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Cyborg, Lemon Popsicle, The Apple, The Delta Force, America 3000, Invaders from Mars, Alan Quartermain and the City of Lost Gold, Too Much, The Robot with Heart, Hannah's War, Penitentiary 3, Salsa, Night Terrors, and Chain of Command. All for Cannon Films.
His Cannon bona fides are just coming out his ears.
It's amazing.
That's fantastic.
And I think if I remember correctly, I didn't even include everything he has done for Cannon. Like, I was like, okay, I think this is enough.
That gives him enough cred. Yeah.
He's there. So I just thought it was interesting. And then the screenplay of the movie was written by a man named Bill Carunso, a man named Brett V. Friedman, and a man named Don Picanot.
Sure.
And the only reason I bring them up is two of the writers wrote for the Rugrats television show.
No.
Which is amazing to think about.
Oh, hell yeah.
The guy who wrote this, two of the guys who wrote this wrote the Rugrats.
Good for them.
Which is amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
So, all of that being said. Oh, and we should also mention that the story was by Boaz Davidson and a man named Christopher Pierce.
Wow.
Christopher Pierce was a producer like a co-producer and production manager for a shit ton of Cannon films himself. So,
great.
This movie is all the Cannon boys together. Such street Cannon cred.
Nice.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
They were getting the band back together for one last show.
For one last show. That's really what it is.
Aww.
That is really what it is.
I wonder if they knew how close they were to ending here. Because, obviously this was the last in theaters, but they hadn't wound down yet. Is that correct? Or
that is, but it's fairly close. I think they had
but the energy is so there.
Movies.
The energy is so there. That's so interesting.
Well, my hunch is they got the band back together because the thought was, you know what? We're nearing the end. Mm-hmm. We're running out of money. So why don't we do this? And when this happens, we are going to get all of the money, and this is going to save the studio. I really do think,
that's interesting.
This is the whole, bake sale, save the studio, save the orphans.
Legitimately breaking.
Yeah.
They were breaking.
Yes, they really were.
And also, interestingly, if you think about it, I bet you these people deferred their payment or took less because they were
all Cannon staples.
Yeah, because the guys probably could be like, hey, you've worked with us before. We just need a little bit of time. Maybe why don't we'll give you points on the back end or some shit like that, you know?
Well, that's not the way to go.
No, it's not. Not with this.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
My lord. So, the movie starts, as you were saying, with, as all great movies start.
All great movies do with narration.
Yeah.
And,
which never comes back again.
No, it does not. No. Not. It doesn't even book in the thing.
Nope.
It starts out talking about how...
it's like the robot overlords.
It's the robot
took
uprising.
Over a prison system.
Exactly. And
now that's where all humans live after the great something of 17 years ago.
Naturally. And the thing about it is, it says the world is run by robots. And yet there is no real evidence other than the fact that there are cameras everywhere and that there is a presence of cyborgs.
Yes.
We hear that there are cyborg squads or cyborg hunters or something like that.
And it's unclear what they hunt.
It seems to be disrupting any sort of human advancement or human uprising.
Yeah.
This is an interesting place to actually start because in the timeline, because we are recording in May of 2020, we did just watch The Bronx Executioner.
Yes.
And we were dealing with malfunctioning robots in that one. And we were dealing with what was called androids and humanoids. And the definition of an android is that it is a robot that acts similar or acts and looks like a human. Now, if you look at the definition of a cyborg, it is a modified human. With added on pieces of technology. It's not a pure.
Right, yeah.
I believe it is not a pure robot.
Right.
Which I believe is belied in this whole movie. I think they just got the terminology wrong.
Right, because this one should have been American Android Steel Warrior.
That's right.
You're absolutely right.
If nothing else, you get some alliteration at the beginning.
American Android Steel Warrior.
Put it right up at the top.
Yeah, right there. Well, what they were trying to do is there was the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie Cyborg.
Playing off of that, of course.
I mean, that was a Cannon film.
Yeah.
And in some territories, this was actually released as Cyborg 2 or, weirdly, American Cyborg 3. And I don't know what part 2 was.
Sure.
But, there's that.
Not nearly as clear as the zombie debacle.
Yeah, the zombie debacle you could at least track. This one, I'm like, I have no fucking clue how this happened.
The second one was lost, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
But, yeah.
What we find out also in that opening, I think, Talkie Talk, narration, is that all humans are infertile.
Yes.
For some reason.
And that's the reference to Children of Men.
Children of Men.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. What I also really loved about this whole thing was we have, again, a fucking cyborg walking around. He is a goddamn cyborg.
Yes.
And he has to walk up to essentially what is an old school police box.
Yeah.
Open it with his hand and then
plug in
a thing from his finger.
It was essentially like the plug-in from R2-D2.
Yes, or I was also thinking, I think, if I remember correctly, Robert Patrick in Terminator 2 also has a similar, like, knife finger thing that he plugs into something. I don't remember where. Or
the key from Fifth Element, the beginning of the Fifth Element.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So it's been done. You've seen it in many different things.
What is amazing, though, about this is, again, it's a robot.
Yes.
Right? It's essentially a robot. And I'm paraphrasing here.
Oh, I wrote it down.
But
you go.
The computer was like, hey, robot, do you remember your orders?
Yep.
Well, remember them. And if you don't remember them, I'll go ahead and repeat those for you.
Proceed on your beat. Remember your orders. What? That threw me for a fucking loop.
So hard.
There were many times where I laughed at this movie.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, A, it's a robot. It's not going to forget its orders.
Yeah.
B, at this point in time, we understood radio signals.
Yeah.
Like, there would be no reason for it to plug in. It could just be updated.
It just have a communication thing in your brain.
Oh, God. I love that.
Yeah.
So much.
And also, this guy, he's never named.
Yeah, he's just called Cyborg.
I think
played by John St. Ryan.
John St. Ryan, who was a martial arts trainer. Actually.
He was in Delta Force 3.
Right, exactly. But he looked, essentially, I kept thinking of him as a combination of Batty and the T-800.
Who?
Of Roy from Blade Runner.
Yes.
So I was like, that's the Roy 800. You know?
That's funny. Yep.
Because he absolutely had the bleach blonde, but he also was dressed in fucking leather.
Yes.
And was essentially, I think he talked once.
I don't even remember him talking.
He talks once. I reversed I'm such a bad watcher of movies. Sometimes for certain aspects of movies, I'm really bad because I didn't understand the first watch through why there was a countdown on the package.
Oh, yes.
And I had to go back, and right before they explain why there was a countdown on the package, he says, "I will go and get them." And it's clearly not his voice even.
Oh, you know what? He also said something to the effect of, like, "Where is the girl?" At one point later.
Oh, yeah. But it wasn't consistent at all. So there you
go. Man, so like in the first 5 minutes of this movie, there was so many things that I wrote down. Number one, I don't know if you noticed, at a certain point, there is a modern, like a street corner mailbox?
Yeah.
There's one of them in there. Like he fights a guy over the mailbox, and all I could think of was like, we're in post-apocalyptic times.
Why is that?
Who is sending mail? Why hasn't that been ripped out?
Yeah.
Like everything else has been ripped out and turned. Like every trash can in the apocalypse has been turned into a fire pit.
Yes. Why wouldn't that? Yeah. But by the way, before we move on, this was shot in Tel Aviv, Israel.
That should be. Yes.
Which is, it's kind of sad that they're like, where we should shoot post-apocalyptic Los Angeles, Tel Aviv. Perfect.
Well, at this point in time, they were shooting everything in Tel Aviv.
That's very true.
It was
That's
way
very true.
cheaper. I gotta say that this is something that really struck me in this movie because there's always sex workers in post-apocalyptic movies.
Consistently.
And there was a moment where I was like, wait a second. If there's sex workers, that means there's like a monetary system.
Right.
Which most societies are based off of some sort of monetary system.
Yeah.
And like the other thing about like everyone who's alive in this movie was alive before society collapsed. So they all remember how society works.
Yes.
Yet they don't seem to be trying to
recreate
anything with society. They've all just sort of given in to like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah,
let's just go for it.
It's kind of odd the things that remain.
Yeah.
That they chose to remain.
And also, like, the fact that there's a goddamn police box that the fucking cyborgs have to check in on.
Right.
Which also, too, why didn't the humans destroy those?
I don't... They just keep having to go out there and rebuild them. Yeah, like, I don't know.
It's amazing.
And the initial introduction of the Roy 800 is super weird because... He gets his orders, and then he goes over, and this sort of, indigent fellow is asking for money or food or something like that, and he's so sick and so starved that he pukes on the cyborg's shoes.
Yeah.
So then Cyborg picks him up, strangles him to death.
Like not just strangles, but like
crushes
shoves
his windpipe.
Thumb into his windpipe to crush it.
Rips off part of his shirt to clean his boot, then walks away. There is a bunch of other weirdos who start cannibalizing the body, essentially. I don't know if literally or just for the things that he owns.
They were not. They were just taking, but they were
stealing. But the Cyborg murdered him, and them taking his belongings seems to annoy the Cyborg, so he picks up a hubcap and throws it at the cannibals and just fucking kills them.
Well, they're not cannibals.
Whatever they are. The gangsters. The stealing people.
The stealing people. Because... Listen,
because there
are cannibals in this movie.
Later on, there are cannibals.
I want to talk for 14 hours about the cannibals, but
Me too.
We have to wait. We have to wait for that.
Oh, damn it!
Oh my god,
so many things to say about that.
Oh god. Well, and what's also weird too is then he walks over to another call box.
Yeah. What?
And is like, wait, what was my orders again? And then he gets different orders. And honestly, I thought this was like a 3-minute thing. Like I didn't like he literally went from one box to the next.
Yes.
And that hubcap throwing thing comes back in the movie, by the way.
It does. That's why I wanted to mention it.
Best way.
The best goddamn way. Oh, Captain America, eat your goddamn heart out.
Seriously.
I wanted to mention one thing about that second police box stop, because they actually give the address of where the place that they wanted him to investigate was. And it's 1709 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And this is the weirdest fucking thing. It's an infant learning center right now. As of now,
that is amazing that you looked that up.
It's an infant learning center. How bizarre.
We should contextualize why that's amazing.
I mean,
because what we have already seen in this movie is the fact that, before the Cyborg gets the address to where he needs to go, we have seen inside where he needs to go. And it's basically like there's a bunch of scientists.
Yeah.
And there's a woman who is fertile. But rather than... And she produces... Well, all it is she produces eggs.
She's the only one with valid ova. They
exactly.
say. Yeah.
So what... I don't know why they do this, but the scientists take the egg out, and they basically make a test tube fetus. And it is the creepiest fucking baby I've ever seen.
And it's amazing.
2001, A Space Odyssey.
Oh, shit. Because
there's another one.
Oh, there it is.
Yep, because of the baby.
And it's fucked up because there are two different shots of the baby. There's one that has no movement whatsoever, and that's just it in its little thing. And then there's a close-up of its eyes sort of half drunkenly open and moving around and sort of smiling. And that's horrifying.
Horrifying, because it would essentially be like if you could put a cutout in a pregnant woman's stomach to see through.
Yes,
that's what we're seeing, except it's in a blue liquid. And the whole thing is like, and this is so unclear, they need to get the baby to the seashore.
Yes.
So the mother can go with the baby to Europe.
Yeah.
Because...
I don't know. I guess
don't know either.
I guess Europe has not been taken over by the machines?
No, they actually talk about how Europe is not a great place. But apparently, like, in Europe, they're fighting back.
There's a resistance going on. Who knows? And, that's very unclear. Also, at this point, they start the countdown.
Which is 36 hours.
There's a literal ticking clock in this movie.
Because the transport device that the baby is in is only temporary.
Yes, exactly.
There is a more stable transport device on the boat.
Called an artificial womb, I believe.
Something to that effect. Well, at this point, the Cyborg comes crashing in because he's got the address.
Before we get that, did you recognize that set?
No.
It was absolutely the Prison Heat set. You go back there, you watch it.
No.
There is a stairway area that was featured many times in Prison Heat that you will absolutely recognize. And Prison Heat was clearly a set. all of those rooms were clearly a set, and
Prison Heat was made in
90%.
1993.
Yeah,
the same year this was made. So
I'm absolutely sure that it was the same one.
You are probably right, because that was also filmed in Tel Aviv.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my God, I feel like my head is just exploding.
Can you imagine that?
Wow.
Just taking all the women and all of like the prison cells out of that, and then putting all those beakers and scientific shit in there.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, the cyborg comes crashing in,
oh.
and oh my God, he's
got great timing.
Guns.
Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about that forever as well.
Yes.
So, like, what's amazing is all these humans have guns, and like the cyborg comes in and kills like 9 people.
Yes.
And then, like, someone beats him up, and, like, he turns around and he shoots that dude, and everything's fine. And the cyborg is, like, precision aim.
Yeah.
And then, like, the cyborg's been there for a minute and a half, and it cuts to, like, a human who's just now turning with his weapon
yeah.
To the cyborg, and the cyborg shoots him, and I'm like, this was not well thought out. This whole, like...
By direction or by the actual people?
All of the above. And what is amazing, too, is the cyborg shoots, like, everyone directly between the eyes.
Yeah.
Except for the mother of the baby.
She somehow hides, because they're already basically on their way. They were ready to walk out of the place.
When the cyborg arrives. So, like, Mary is, like, her name's Mary.
Yeah.
It's like, he can't hit her.
No, of course not.
All.
No.
Like, he turns into a stormtrooper when it comes to hitting her. And
throughout the rest of the movie.
Yes, and we have another lead who we haven't met yet, who is also, like, a stormtrooper. Yeah. And at this point, they had said her name, like, 20 times.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally wrote down, like, oh my God, her name is Mary.
Mary,
I'm
yes.
dumb. Because Mary.
Immediately.
Not Mary Magdalene. That's a different Mary. That's one of the sex workers.
Mary and Joseph. Yeah.
Mary and Joseph.
Yeah.
Right?
Mary Christ.
Mary
Is
Christ.
That what?
Oh,
yeah, sure.
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah, we'll go with it.
Research AJ here. Wow, I did not think that an episode of Creating Canon would go down this path, but I guess we did tackle Gnosticism in our Night Terrors episode. All right, so Mary's last name. First of all, Mary was actually Miriam, shortened after translation from Greek to English. As for last names or surnames, there are many different sources of where those come from. Patronymic is naming someone after their lineage, their father's name, or their family name. Locative is a name after nearby locations or significant landmarks such as trees, forests, lakes, or mountains, such as Pine, Marsh, Dell. Occupational surnames could mean you were named after your profession, such as baker, cooper, knight, or podcaster. Finally, some people were given names based on nicknames or personal characteristics, such as Jolly or Stout. Of course, there are many other ways that people have gotten their names, including slaves forced to take their oppressors' family names, religious sources, and one may choose their own name, in fact. At the time that Mary would have been alive, the 12 tribes of Israel didn't have surnames, but they did relate their lineage, therefore close to patronymic, listing off their parentage, such as Mary, daughter of Joachim, then continuing back along the line. For a female, the prefix in Hebrew is bat, meaning becoming. Therefore, Mary's surname, closest to what we would recognize, would be Bat Joachim. For males, the prefix is Ben, meaning son. Therefore, Jesus' last name would technically be Ben Yosef, or, depending on what you believe, Ben God, or Ben Yahweh. All right, back to the show.
Also, speaking of which, because of the biblical references, when it comes to this list of movies, I want to add something like The Greatest Story Ever Told, or like, you know,
yes.
So Mary runs away. Also, this was a weird thing too. In certain scenes with the cyborg, it's just like a human face, like totally normal face. In other scenes with the cyborg, it looks like someone went over the film print and used whiteout on his eyes.
Oh, no, exactly.
Every frame. And it was so weird. I thought
it was kind of cool. Yeah, it was a good attempt.
Part of me hated that.
Yeah. No, it absolutely looked like something from Rankin and Bass, like the projection drawn over people. But, you know, that's the thing that they had to work with, I guess.
Well, this is the crazy part, is like Terminator 2, which the special effects in Terminator 2, I don't know if you've seen it recently,
unrivaled,
still hold up. And that movie was in 1991.
I don't understand.
So we're nearly 30 years later, and Terminator 2's special effects still pretty much hold up.
Yeah.
This movie, 2 years later, can't even get the eyes right.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's one... There's like 2 CGI special effects. There's that and the baby. And they can't get either. And the baby might have been a puppet.
That's definitely a fucking puppet. Jesus. I also liked... I was just mentioning the Bronx Executioner, where we had the other robots. And there's no real... Until the very last minute of that movie, there's no real allusion because of certain ways that they shot the movie. There are no allusions that any of them are cyborgs or androids or robots in general. And just the simple fact that he is super fucking strong, I thought was a really good addition to this movie. Yeah. There's one point where the cyborg gets attacked by some guys, and he like lifts one of the guys up and stabs their hand into the wall.
Yeah, well,
that's really cool.
Well, and this is actually, so I went back and forth in certain things because what ends up happening is Mary and one woman basically get out and like, okay, we're gonna go to the beach, and the woman has the map, Mary has the baby. Mary crawls over the fence.
Yep.
The woman gets shot in the back. She dies, and that's when all those other so this is a common theme in this movie.
The scavengers.
Like, anytime someone dies, scavengers come out for the body. And they all start going after the woman, and I actually was like, why does the cyborg care?
Yeah.
And then the movie actually did something really interesting where why he cared was that woman had a map.
Yeah.
And now the cyborg knows where Mary is going to, which I really dug that.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot that we need to talk about because he eventually heat tracks people by their footprints, which is total fucking nonsense.
Bullshit.
Like, you cannot, and you see from the cyborg's point of view that the footprints
is like, it's burning.
They burn, and this is like half an hour after people stepped on, in those spots.
Now, could that be explained away by the fact that there's a bunch of fucking radiation out there?
But nobody else is lighting up, and radiation has a long half-life. It's not like you would step on it and then radiation just goes poof.
That's true. That's true. And
there
also
would be footprints everywhere.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah. Interesting.
So Mary gets away, and immediately she is attacked by a bunch of another gang. Like when we talk about the themed gang, from the Warriors,
that was.
This is the trans gang.
Trans gang, I would say so. Yeah.
Which again, I wanted to point out that this is really interesting. We're still in the era of trans people equal evil.
Sure, yeah.
But this is also where our male hero, whose name is Austin, played by Joe Lara, is revealed. And I thought his reveal was fucking gold.
Yeah.
It was kind of good and incredibly funny.
I was super worried when I saw him walk onto screen that was the guy from Samurai Cop. Matthew Karetas. Have you ever seen Samurai Cop?
I have not.
Holy shit! It is. It is.
Do I need to watch Samurai Cop?
We should just do, just because I mentioned it. We should do this as a canon blast.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm
Samurai
writing it down.
Cop.
Well, this is how we ended up watching Phantom of the Paradise.
Yes, exactly. But good. Thank goodness. No, it's not him.
Isn't Tommy Wiseau in Samurai Cop?
I don't think he is.
Okay,
but
maybe I'm thinking of a different movie.
He might be everywhere. No, he's not in Samurai Cop, but he is in Samurai Cop 2, Deadly Vengeance, of course.
Oh, boy. I started then having all these questions of, if the baby is in the tube, why does Mary have to go on this expedition in the first place?
Yeah, I was
There's no reason.
Is she also going to be transported there?
Yeah, well, we finally find that out at the end that, yes, that is the case, I think, but it's unclear at the beginning. For whatever reason, I mean, there is no reason, but Austin sort of all right, we'll team up, I'll help you out.
Yeah, sure. And she actually offers him the RZB?
I kept hearing AZT, but that's I was like, does everyone have AIDS in this society?
I thought that was a very interesting thing because as much as AZT went into full distribution in 1996, it was actually in development from 87. So it's entirely possible that they were trying to do some sort of some comparison, some connection. Yeah, I'm not sure, but
although I feel like that's probably too highbrow. That's probably too much.
Who knows? But honestly, there are some weird allusions in this movie.
Yes.
I will say that seem more thought out than what we're giving it credit for.
That is true. Oh God. There's the moment where they're running through the sewers. Austin's like, okay, we can get to the seashore, the coast, completely through the sewers.
Yep.
It'll take us about 10 hours to get there. It's only...
But you got like 32 hours still.
And it's only about 10 miles away, so everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And as they're running through the sewers, somehow, who fucking knows how, the fucking cyborg finds them.
Yeah.
And this is a common theme throughout the rest of the movie, where... somehow the cyborg finds them.
It's dramatic timing to its like the most ridiculous you've ever seen.
It's hysterical. Well, what ends up happening is every time they're about to kiss, the cyborg comes into the room.
Pretty much.
It's incredible.
I also want to talk about the damn mines down in the sewer.
I want to talk about that too, because I both loved and hated so what ends up happening is the cyborg comes in.
Yeah.
And Mary and Austin are like, shit, we're going to climb back up to the top because we have a better chance of escaping up top.
Easier, yeah.
And there are all these landmines in the sewer.
Which Austin has already warned her about to watch out. And they're not buried. They're not underwater. They're just sitting out.
They're just there.
They're just,
Which is weird.
They're like, who did that?
Why?
Yeah.
You know what? I don't care, because what ends up happening is Mary starts climbing up the ladder, and her backpack, for some reason, just sort of falls off and lands on one of the landmines.
Yep, and doesn't go off.
It doesn't go off, because, it lands on it, but it doesn't pull the trigger.
Yes, exactly.
And at first, I really hated this, because I was like, well, this is stupid manufactured drama. Because she's like, I can't leave the backpack. She hasn't told Austin that there's a baby in the backpack. But... he's like, come on. She's like, no, I can't leave it. So he's finally like, fuck, fine. He goes over, and this is where I really started to love it, because he, reaches under, puts his hand on the landmine, holds the landmine down, gives her the backpack, and the only thing he has is their one and only gun.
I loved that, too.
On top of it. I thought that was like...
I really could feel that tension. Honestly, that was... probably one of the more tense scenes, and there are scenes in the future in this movie that are intended to be tense, and they just sort of fall flat. But this one, even though the rest of those scenes have sweat on the brow, this was just well shot and well acted. Honestly, the circumstances all worked.
Yeah, well, and that's what I mean by, when the backpack first fell on the landmine, I was like, fuck you, I hate this.
Well, because it's awkward when she drops it, but yeah.
Yeah, but then when it paid off, I was like, wow, that was actually pretty great. And what makes it even greater is they get upstairs, up the ladder, and the cyborg comes running through, and I'm assuming what happened, because I think it happens off the screen.
Yeah.
The cyborg sees a gun, and is like, cool, I got a gun, picks it up.
What actually happens is Austin leans back down and actually shoots at the mine.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah,
it's
so quick. He
it was unclear.
Leans back.
I was probably making a note at that moment.
I'm sure, because he leans back down real quick, shoots the gun because he sees the cyborg coming up.
That's right.
And in fact, it blows Austin up and out of the sewer.
The whole
and at that point, that gives them enough time to get to a safety zone, like a safe house or something.
House, which
I guess
was incredible, because in Austin's house, it looks like... I laughed so fucking hard at the reveal of this, because it was like... it was out in the open, right?
Yeah.
There's a little couch, and then in the background, I don't know if you saw, it looked like a severed head that had decomposed, set on top of an American flag that was just sort of draped.
Oh, I saw the American flag. I didn't see the fucking head.
It was like a little severed, it was I don't think it was an actual severed head.
Okay.
I think it was
a shrunken head type of
kind
thing?
of a thing. No, like a statue or something.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But it was just a head sitting on top, and that was what was holding the American flag from falling to the ground. I laughed so hard. And this is
amazing.
where Austin and Mary go to sleep.
Yep.
In this little weird hovel.
Yeah.
It looks like a hobbit hole.
It does. You're absolutely right. One other thing that we actually completely skipped was when Cyborg is hunting her through the elevator area.
Oh yeah.
But I just we don't have to go back to that too much. But I just loved, there was a shot where she was climbing the chain link of the outside of an elevator area, and that shot was actually kind of good. It was a very tense moment where she's climbing up and he's trying to find her. I loved it. Yeah,
I think we've already established through several episodes that Boaz Davidson knows what he's doing. He's actually a fairly competent director. Like,
he really does.
I really still love Last American Virgin.
Me too.
And there were some moments in X-Ray that were solid.
Yeah.
And really nice, tense moments.
And again, though, he doesn't... We talked about it on the episode, but he doesn't do horror. So the fact that he even pulled it off at all is amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Mary wakes up out of nowhere, and somehow the cyborg has found them.
And just jams a fucking pole through the wall.
Yeah, so, like, there's two
portals?
entrance. It looks like two safe doors.
Yes.
Like from a bank, right?
Yeah,
that's sort of like circular and they swing open.
Mm-hmm.
/ manhole covers, but like not on the ground, sitting upright.
Yes, yeah.
So he slams a pipe through one of them. and
it's immediately after she has set up from bed.
Yes, she sits up.
It's amazing.
That happens. She's like, Austin, he's like, come on. And they go through the other manhole cover safe door.
Yeah.
And this was one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, because as they're walking out the one safe door, from the shot outside, you can see the cyborg walking in. And it was like,
brilliant.
It was comic gold.
Priceless.
And at this point, he's shooting at them, and I wrote down the cyborg's only vulnerability is shooting them. He turns into a stormtrooper when they're around.
So fucking bad.
Austin and him have a fight, and they cut the cyborg. This is the first time the cyborg gets cut.
Yeah.
And he bleeds that, like, milk white blood.
Yeah.
Which reminded me so much of Alien when Ash is murdered.
Very much
so. And also, too, somehow Austin keeps damaging the cyborg.
Yeah.
But when the cyborg comes back, he's perfectly repaired.
Well, there's a very awkward moment after they escape first from the android, and was that when he slashes the neck?
I think so.
Okay. Because they get into way more scuffles with this thing than you would think you would,
like 20 times.
Yes.
Well, and there's actually I'm so sorry. I forgot this moment earlier where and this is, I think, the slashing of the neck moment, and this happens a little bit earlier than this. There's the moment where Austin tries to sell 2 batteries to some random dude.
Oh, sure.
And she sneaks in and sees it, and the cyborg just appears out of nowhere, she being Mary.
Right through.
The cyborg appears out of nowhere. The cyborg and Austin start a fight.
Yeah.
Austin is about to be murdered by the cyborg, and she, Mary, is standing there, looks to her right, sees a rocket launcher, and is like, oh, all right, I guess I'll just use this.
Yeah, I guess
and then, aims at the cyborg.
And that's the moment when the cyborg... that's the moment when the cyborg is punching him in the face and then stops mid-punch and says, identify yourself.
That's right, yes. Oh, God, it's so good.
I was like... And that's when he slashes his neck for the first time.
The neck.
Actually...
And that's where the blood comes. Well, and also, when the rocket launcher hits near the cyborg...
Yeah.
It does, it's a fucking rocket launcher.
Yeah.
All that happens, just a couple of sparks.
And a hole in his jacket for the rest of the movie.
Yes.
That was all there was. But
it was genius.
The grossest part is his throat is healing up from that slash at that moment. Uh-huh. He gets so many injuries. But he just sort of, rubs his neck in the white goo for an inordinate amount of time.
Yeah.
It's too sensual to be a mistake. and then he takes his hand off and it's completely healed.
Well, that's the thing that I was going to say about his healing is
he regenerates.
You never actually see it on screen. Like in the Terminator movie, like in Terminator 2, you actually see all the regeneration on screen.
Right.
In this, it's sort of like it all happens off screen. There is one
except
moment,
for the fingers.
I was going to say, there's one moment towards the middle where the fingers sort of regenerate.
They sort of grow back, but they're just robot things.
Yes, but they're clearly robot things, and then when they cut back to him, like when we see him again eventually, it looks like a normal hand. So they don't fully regenerate. We just see the start of regeneration.
Exactly. Which is, they're working with what they got.
Yes.
That's actually, honestly, anytime something came out of the Cyborg's finger, I thought it was actually kind of cool. He has the communication device,
yes.
right? Like the R2-D2 thing, and he just holds it up to the front of the camera, and then it slides up, seamlessly. Yeah. Looking like it came directly out of
From
finger.
His finger.
And then he has the attacking spire, like the little poke, the spike.
The poke one.
Yeah. And then 4 of his fingers come back after Austin cuts his fingers off.
Yes.
And drops him onto a drill.
Oh, that moment was awesome.
Oh, that was so cool.
That moment was really cool.
Yeah, and then all 4 of them come up through the tips of his fingers,
yes.
which was just kind of neat. I was impressed, honestly, for the level of this movie.
I was too.
Yeah.
And this was one of my favorite lines in the history of film. Mary is like, well, let's just go. And Austin is like, we can't just go. We have to, protect ourselves. Mary's like, why? And he goes, radioactive cannibals. There's a bunch of radioactive cannibals between here and the beach.
He's not the only guy. And thinking, that was so odd to me that she has existed through this entire reality. She was born before
everyone
the nuclear...
was born before the nuclear explosion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And to not understand what is going on there. Her parents, we learn, were killed by some gang. So she's got to know.
No.
Were they not?
They were not killed by some gang.
Well,
I wrote this down. You know what? I wanna just hold on.
Okay, we can hold on to
that reveal, because that reveal is.
But she should know the warnings. She should know that there's bad people out there.
Yes,
that it's trouble.
So I'm gonna skip just a couple of.
There's a lot.
I'm gonna fly past through a couple of things.
Yeah.
First of all, at this point, they disguise themselves. And I actually really love this because Mary...
where did you get your head covers?
Well, Mary wears a headscarf, but she looks like... At this point now, she actually looks like
Mary,
the Virgin Mary, because she's got the headscarf. I actually thought it was really smart. Mm-hmm. And, his long hair.
Yeah.
So they now all of a sudden sort of look like Mary and Joseph, because he's very biblical looking.
Very much so.
At this point, we meet a character named Carp, who Mary and Austin have been separated. I don't remember how that happens. Carp comes along. He's like, she's like, hey.
Oh, he goes down and tries to find his stash of ammo.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, and he was like,
That's
you stay here, hold on to the gun. She's like, it's an empty gun. And he was like, well, they don't know that. Don't tell them.
This woman named Carp appears and is like, hey, give me your pants. I want your pants. Let me get in those pants, girl. And Mary's like, no. And at this point, Austin shows up and is like, hey. And it turns out that Austin and Carp are really good friends.
Yep.
And Carp is like, oh, cool. Well, I'm going to give you my lucky specs, which I thought would pay off in some way.
And they did not.
They were just yellow glasses.
They look like those yellow driving glasses.
Shooting glasses, too.
Shooting glasses or the late night yellow glasses.
Oh, God, that was amazing.
I thought it was going to pop up with an on-screen display of oh, there's a bad guy.
Yes.
That's something.
Nothing.
No.
Not at all. This is where it's finally revealed that Mary has a baby in her backpack. And
That's
Austin's reaction to that wasn't like, oh my God, a baby?
Mm-hmm.
This is incredible. How is that possible? Austin's reaction is like, what the fuck? Why didn't you fucking tell me?
Yeah.
Well, Mary actually says...
I love this moment so much.
Okay, because there was 2 lines in this moment that made me laugh so hard I almost peed my pants.
I'll say the whole concept of the discussion. She had been promising Austin that when they get to the coast, that he would get all the RZB, the radio zone, blah, 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 that he could carry.
Which is food and a drug, ?
It's some sort of healing something, blah, I don't know.
Who knows?
It's used as money, clearly.
Yeah.
Established by one of the earlier scenes. And he says, so what the fuck is this thing? Were you going to trade this for the RZB? He says that. It's a perfect lie. It's a perfect thing that she could just say yes and.
Yeah.
She could say, yeah, of course, that's exactly, and continue on, and just, he'd be like, oh, okay, cool. I just didn't know how you were going to get the RZB. She says, no, it's humanity's last hope. And he's like, well, fuck you then. Is there any RZB? No?
Well,
okay, goodbye.
Because what she actually says is, this is one of the lines that made me, like, pee my pants. She goes, don't be mad. It's my baby. Which killed me. And he turned around and said, let me explain something to you. 17 years ago, exposition.
You remember that thing that we all should know?
Yeah, and it was like, what the fuck? What the fuck is happening? And he ditches her. He's like, fuck you, I'm done.
Yeah. Oh, and this is the most amazing thing. When they say goodbye, she is standing there holding the backpack in front of her like it's an actual, like, in her belly baby.
Yeah.
And in the back, you can see 3 crosses in the ground. There are absolutely 3 crosses that you can see in the back of all of this. And I was like, holy shit. But it's fascinating. I was like, great job, Boaz.
Wow.
That's fucking cool.
Well, I mean, the biblical thing is all over this movie, which is why, like, the Matrix sort of works, and, like, well, and not only that, like, how the machines have taken over with the Matrix. Oh, naturally, but, like, At this point, she starts, like, fuck you, fine, I'll go alone.
Yeah.
And we are firmly in the radioactive cannibal section, where I thought this was great. They are in a movie. I don't know if you noticed this.
That was a movie theater.
It was a movie theater, but the movie theater is filled with office chairs.
Yes.
And you can only tell that's a movie theater because when it cuts back to her, there's a screen that's torn.
Yes.
And the radioactive cannibals appear for the first time. And I actually wrote down in the note, we need more radioactive cannibals in film. Because, like,
honestly,
this was, like,
fucking priceless.
So good. So the cannibal sort of looks like the cannibals from Judge Dredd. Yeah. And Judge Dredd came after this movie. So I want to point that out as well.
Well, and also, it was a little bit, the main guy, the main lead cannibal,
he was good.
So incredibly well-spoken and felt almost like an actor type.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was a very interesting style. He also had half of his face covered, like the Phantom. He was the Phantom of the cannibals.
Well, some of the cannibals had their face. I'm guessing completely this was makeup, because actually, if you looked at them, most of them had their face covered.
Yeah.
And
they all looked like mummies. Oddly.
Yes, they did. And the lead cannibal, the part of his face that wasn't covered, it wasn't just that it, like, was a normal face. It was incredibly, like, radioactive,
scarred and burnt, and yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And they also put her up on a cross. Yeah.
Yeah. This, at this point in the movie, was the first time I really noticed how terrible the music actually was.
Oh, I wanted to talk about the music. Holy shit.
I see the 3 crosses in the background. That's incredible.
Right? Isn't that cool?
Picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
I took some video that I'm going to play for you in a bit.
Oh, I cannot wait.
Yeah.
You know what the music to me sounded like? In Dark Knight Rises, the chanting combined with Metroid 16-bit music.
Yeah. It was not great.
Nope.
It was not great through most of the movie. But this is the first time where I really noticed how not great it was.
It was fairly repetitive, too. Like, the stings were the exact same through most of it.
All the way throughout.
Yeah.
At this point, for whatever reason, Austin comes back. It's never actually explained why Austin comes back. But Austin and the main cannibal get into this big fight. Mm-hmm. And I also love this moment, too, because the main cannibal takes the backpack and runs.
Yep.
Well, first of all, he sees the baby. The main cannibal finds the baby in the backpack.
Yeah.
And I wanted there to be a joke about, like, ooh, an appetizer.
I did. I was just thinking that. Yes.
Like,
I wanted that, too.
Cannibal.
Yeah.
The main cannibal throws the backpack on top of this roof.
Yep.
And it's the most incredibly silly sliding backpack, because
that was like, another one of those tense things.
Fight. And they would cut to the backpack and it would just go slide. And then it would stop.
Yeah.
Fight. Cut to the backpack. Slide. Stop.
Well, it kind of lined up with them landing a big blow on the other one, so it would, like, rattle the roof, but it shouldn't have been. They were on a different roof. I know.
They were on 2 separate roofs.
Yes, exactly. That's
what was so amazing to me. And then, eventually, the backpack, like, Austin defeats the main cannibal.
Mm-hmm.
The backpack is slid down the roof to a point where it's just hanging by its strap.
Of course.
Austin is reaching for it, can't reach for it, it falls, and we're like, oh no! And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Mary reaches out of a window.
Yeah.
And catches the backpack.
Completely blind.
There is no way she knew that backpack was there.
Hey, unless she had some Neo
divine
shit.
Intervention.
Oh yeah, some Neo seeing through walls shit.
When she caught that backpack, I was howling
because she smiles up at him too, and she's like wah, wah.
Got it.
Oh, we're all crazy. At either this point or right before Austin had run away, I wrote down in all caps. Oh, it was when she first met Carp.
Okay.
But she starts talking to Austin after they leave Carp, and she's like, "So, are you like? Is there a thing with you and Carp or something like that?"
Dating?
And I wrote, "This is not the time for a love triangle, Mary."
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So good.
So many times in this, they have fucking time for this. They just like stop and they're like, you know what? I love you. You're pretty cool. This is really not like it's a day and a half that they need to get to the fucking place.
Every single time they stop and have a moment, the cyborg punches through a wall, which makes it so much better.
Learn from it.
This is the moment in the movie that, again, I howled with laughter. Because Mary has this real dramatic the thing where she's like, I'll tell you the story of why I'm here and how I'm here.
Oh, God, yes.
I was 5 years old, and the bombs went off, and my mom, my dad, and I were in a shelter. Oh, it's because Austin said, what are you going to name the kid? She's like, I'm going to name it my daddy.
That's right.
And she goes on the story, she's like, and we heard all this banging on the door, so my mom put me in the basement, and I heard my mother... This line killed me. I was in the basement, and I was listening, and the pounding, and then my mother kept screaming, "Cyborg, cyborgs!"
That's right, cyborgs,
cyborgs. And then it all went quiet, and she was the only one who left. At this point, I was actually like, "Wait a second, hold the fucking phone."
Yeah.
Or maybe it came back to me. I was like, "Wait a second, how does getting the baby to Europe help humanity?" Because that's what the whole monologue was about.
Yeah.
At this point, again, they go to kiss, and of course they kiss, and what happens?
Guess what?
Boom, the cyborg punches the wall.
Fuck
and
yeah.
Also, at this point, I was like, okay, there's no way he's following them anymore. Like, it does not make sense.
Well, here's one thing that I thought might lead to making sense was when the cyborg got the map from the woman that he killed that was traveling with Mary
early on.
At the very, very beginning. Maybe he was following that map and it was somehow coinciding with what she... Or would we assume that Austin would be taking them on a completely different trek?
That would be an awfully coincidental
convenient
thing.
Well, and it wouldn't make sense that they could ever escape him.
Well, and not only that, too. Like, he shows up when they're there.
That's
every
true.
Single time.
It doesn't make any sense.
Like, if he would have just shown up at the end of the journey, because that's where he knows they're going...
Yeah.
That would have been one thing.
Yes, exactly.
The other thing, too, about the cyborg that kills me is the fact that with everybody else, the cyborg breaks into the room, is like, boom, 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 and shoots everybody first. Mm-hmm. Like, goes straight to gunfire.
Yeah.
Anytime the cyborg comes in the room and it's Austin and Mary... He, like, has the gun up, and then he puts the gun away, and he starts fighting.
Well, and there's so many... there's also so many different ways, because at one point, they shoot the gun with their guns, and it malfunctions. Another time, it, like, falls away from him, so he has to fight. And then they make so many reasons why that he doesn't use the gun on them.
But the point, though, is everyone else, he, like, kicks the wall down and starts firing immediately.
Right.
With them, he kicks the wall down, he sort of looks... He holds the gun, and he, like, pauses with it while she has time to shoot him.
Yes.
Like, that's what I mean, too.
Or she has a chance to jump behind something, and Austin fights. And she never runs anywhere. She never, like, runs off while Austin is fighting. She should get a head start. So that...
Yes.
But
something.
And another thing that was confusing to me for a while in this movie, and you'll know why, was that I kept thinking, we have seen this cyborg go to a van that he thought that they were in at one point, rip the doors off of the van with his bare hands.
Yeah.
And then when he realizes they weren't in the van, he decides to lift the van up as if he's just doing a simple weightlifting exercise.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, why the hell can Austin put up any sort of a fight in a hand-to-hand or pipe-to-pipe fight?
Well, and like, also, too, by the way, I just have to say, there's always a really handy weapon nearby, because at this point, there's like there's the rocket launcher earlier, there's a gun at a random moment.
Constantly
and at this
pipes.
random moment, Austin just, like, grabs an axe off the wall and starts
the
fighting
axe,
the Cyborg.
that's right, yeah.
They fight, and it's actually a pretty good fight. The Cyborg almost falls down an elevator shaft.
Right, and he's holding on to Austin.
There's this great moment. So Austin, at that point, literally cuts the Cyborg's fucking arm off.
Oh, it was such good effects. For the time, I loved it.
Well, that was all practical.
Yeah,
which is why it looks so cool.
Absolutely.
Cuts the Cyborg's arm off, and the Cyborg reaches up and grabs his other arm, Austin's other arm.
Yes.
So at first, the Cyborg was holding onto the edge of the elevator, and that's when Austin cut his arm off so the Cyborg would fall. The Cyborg then reaches up with his other hand and grabs Austin's arm and just holds it and, like, pulls all of his weight. And it was really gross, because at this point, you could see Austin's arm start like, bleeding.
Oh,
and I was
God.
like, as I was watching, I was like, this is weird.
I was confused where it was
Where's
going.
that blood coming from?
And then I was like, oh, Jesus, they're not really going to do this, are they?
Whoop. The Cyborg rips Austin's arm off.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I was shocked.
That was the most surprising moment of this entire movie.
I've never seen... And then...
Yep.
And I should have called it.
You
Austin
really should.
looks down, and
he reaches into his arm.
It turns out that Austin is a cyborg. Austin doesn't know that he's a cyborg.
Yeah, that's why he didn't have any memories. Mary earlier on asked him what he remembers of the before times, and he was like, you know what's weird is I really don't remember. Something must have happened to me.
And there's also a moment, and this happened just before, like maybe 2 minutes before this, like the reveal.
Yeah.
Mary looks at him and goes, your forehead was cut, and now it's healed. I guess it's the RZB doing its job.
Right.
At that point, I was like, is Austin a fucking cyborg?
Well, I thought that, or that he was like some super powered something or other.
I thought that, then I thought like, oh, maybe he's the Jesus.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I actually thought the reveal of that Austin was a cyborg was actually really great.
Well, I thought it was surprisingly powerful. Like, I'm not saying that either of these actors are anything special. They're not going to win an Academy Award. But the emotion, the complicated emotion that you saw in Austin, he was crying. However they had it, he looked like he was just devastated, and the understanding of what that would mean to Mary and what he thought of cyborgs in general.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's... How do I phrase this right? It is like... Have you ever seen people who get their DNA tested, and it's like the fucking racist-ass motherfuckers who are so racist when they like start reading their DNA test and they find out that there's like 10% African blood in their system.
Oh, God.
And they have like this like meltdown.
Yep.
This is the dramatic version, because I find that, like, you know what? Fuck you.
That's quite interesting, yeah.
But it sort of felt like that. So this reveal, I don't know. I really actually enjoyed the reveal. I really did.
Yeah.
And I thought he played it really well.
He played it great. I think it could have been written just slightly better, because
I think so too.
It's always that problem, that limit of... If you could say one more line or one more word or something like that, you would be able to clear up a lot of shit.
Also, though, I think,
but emotionality,
emotionality. Well, and I also it's so weird because like I thought they hid the reveal fairly well.
They really did. They did.
So when it happened, I was like, oh shit, I actually did not see... I did not expect something that clever from this movie.
I didn't either. And funny enough, I mean, I guess it actually does make sense, because why would she now trust him?
Well, one thing I want to point out really quickly before we go to that, because I think you're absolutely right, because I wrote down a note there too. One thing that I did write down was like, I at this moment was like, oh fuck. So they actually have now went from like a pseudo ripoff of Terminator 2 to a blatant ripoff of Terminator 2. Because now it is an android fighting another android to help a woman have the child who's going to save
the
humanity.
future. Yes. Yeah.
Because up until this point, it was just a regular dude fighting an android.
Right, exactly.
And now it was like, oh shit, now it really
Son of a
is
bitch.
Terminator 2.
Yeah.
100%. You just held that reveal, which I thought was interesting that they held the reveal.
Yeah, it was...
And she sees him. Now she knows that he's a cyborg.
Yeah.
And she's just like, I hate you. How can I trust you?
Because
Fuck
all
off.
of this was just to her, it could have only been a ploy to get her trust, almost just be play acting, like, okay, this bad guy is attacking me, and now Austin is going to lead her to the actual,
she kept
computers.
saying, like, what are you going to, like, did you kill... Well, no, because what she said is, like, have you been telling him where I'm at so he can kill me?
Right, exactly.
Which I did actually write down, fucking Hail Mary, if he was going to kill you or the baby, you would be dead.
Yeah.
Like, the
He's
logic
been very
of this
close to you.
does not make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but once you see, like, if somehow you trusted somebody and then they took their jacket off and they had an SS armband around there, you'd be like, holy shit, I just don't know what to think right now.
Fair enough.
And there's this crazy ass time limit.
Yes. Well, and eventually when she sees him again, she is sort of like, I think, come to her senses about what's happened. Spoiler alert.
Right. And what next happens is the most badass thing ever. When she runs away from him...
Well, that doesn't happen quite yet, because first she runs away from him and she gets into the, what I would call the Deus Ex Carpina.
Yeah.
Because Carp all of a sudden shows up.
Apparently she's been following them.
Yeah, she's like, hey, how's it going?
God.
See, you got the specs. They're good luck for you. Give them back and I'll take you to the shoreline. Come on, let's go. And at this point, Mary goes back into the sewer. Yep. And I thought to myself, wait a second, that's the same exact sewer set from earlier.
It's just backwards, yeah.
And then the acid rain set was
is
the same exact set where
her friend dies.
Her friend dies.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, at that point, I was like, okay, now you're reusing sets on me.
Oh, of course they were.
Then we get to
Austin
doing the most badass thing.
I mean, this was very, very lucky the way this all went down. He cut off Roy 800's right arm, and Roy 800 ripped off his right arm. So he goes ahead and stitches the dude's arm back onto himself.
Which then Mary eventually gets to the
shore. Yes.
And she's like, awesome. We think it's going to be scot-free out of nowhere. And I like this because this could actually be explained because we know where Roy 800 was. Like, Roy 800 knows where she's going because of the map.
Yes.
Roy 800 jumps out of the water.
Yeah.
He is fucking stitched on Austin's arm.
Fuck yeah.
And I was like, this is really smart and interesting. Like,
this is brilliant.
I actually thought that was really cool.
I will say, though, it's super hard to be intimidating while wading through water.
Yes, especially when she shoots him in the face.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Which I actually thought that was some really good makeup effects.
That was great, too.
But she drops the gun, and the gun floats in the water. Guns don't float.
Nope.
But she's able to get away, and as this one killed me. As she's running away, he picks up that hubcap again. Chucks it at her, and hits her in the back of the head. And she just goes... thud, falls, and like rolls.
And his heads-up display in his eyes says, target eliminated. And I was like, holy shit!
Well, and also what happens at this point, she's holding the baby.
Yeah.
When she gets hit in the back of the head, the baby just goes floop and flies through the air.
Yep.
Like end over end, lands into the water and like starts bouncing in the water. Austin shows up. Austin and the cyborg have a fight.
Yep.
Long story short, Austin defeats the cyborg.
He stabs him in the eye.
Which was awesome.
Mary shot him in one eye. Austin stabbed him with dude's own pointy finger.
Pointy finger.
Oh, it was so good.
So good. And then Austin picks up the baby and starts running with the baby in this thing. And it's
in the
shaking.
Water.
And at this point, I was like, dude, that baby's gonna die of like shaken baby syndrome.
Yeah, it's gonna knock against that fucking amniotic fluid. No, it's done.
At this point, it's been thrown. It's been run around. Like, there's no way this baby is still alive
it's gone through
anymore.
10 miles of post-apocalyptic L.A.
Shaking and running. There's a conversation. This conversation between Austin and Mary is fucking insane because Austin hands the baby to Mary, and Mary is like, come with me. And he's like, no, I'm a cyborg now. And I got to stay here and help people because I'm a cyborg. And she's like, but I love you. And he's like, I love you too, but I'm a cyborg. That whole conversation was insane. She's like, well, I'm going to name the baby Austin.
Austin, like, after his daddy, basically.
After his daddy, which killed me because I was like, he is not the child's father.
You've known him for less than a day and a half.
Yes. And she's like, I'm going to tell him stories about you and all of these other things, which, oh my God.
And also, before we get to the credits, which are very, very close, I still don't understand why they needed the ticking clock. Because with the bad guy following them, the end of the movie is tense enough. You need to get the baby to this ship. To the boat. Let's just say that that she keeps looking at her watch and the baby has a little timer thing on it as well.
Yes, it's
maybe
like 10,
maybe
9,
that's just
8.
but maybe that's just a meetup time. Maybe that's just like they have to be there or else the aqua robots will come and get them and they only have a small window of time.
Totally.
But they do this thing where it is the diffusing of the bomb trope where they have to get the baby from the little box that they've been taking them around in into the fake womb that is on a dinghy, yeah. And they just like slip them in there and they're like, oh my God, is it going to work? And it's down, like you say, it's down to 10 fucking seconds.
Yeah.
And that was
4,
just
3, 2, 1, and the baby gets in and all of a sudden the baby's like
smiles.
Yeah.
And I was like, why? I don't know if that was necessary.
I agree with you. I don't know the point of that particular part of the ticking clock.
Like I say, it should have been a meeting time rather than a... Yeah.
Well, that was actually the thing that confused me, is I thought it was a meeting time. Like, the boat is going to leave at this time.
Yeah.
Because the boat has to leave.
Yeah.
And it turns out that, like, no, the baby had to get out of, like, the amniotic fluid by this exact second, because otherwise it was going to... It's not... I mean, it doesn't... Yeah, you're right. It made no sense. It made absolutely no sense.
But whatever.
At this point, that's actually when they have the big conversation, and I'm going to play you. Mm-hmm. It's about 1 minute and 30 seconds, but I recorded this.
I'm here for it
because
it's quarantine. I got nothing else to do.
This was incredible. So it's not the conversation.
Okay.
It's when it's like the very end of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to name the baby Austin, and as he grows up, I'm going to tell him all about you.
And they kiss. Oh, and they embrace. And she gets aboard the dinghy.
So wait, keep holding on.
Yeah.
He's watching the dinghy go away. Austin's alone on the shore. She's waving to him. She's looking, freaking out. Now he's walking away. Fucking hero.
Freeze frame. Wait.
It says freeze frame, American Cyborg Steel Warrior. Okay. So, I played that for a specific reason.
All right.
Okay. I want you to listen to this.
Okay.
This is the theme
Is this
of
the
Terminator 2.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Guys. Well...
Wait till we get to the end. Hold on. Okay, wait.
Guys, that was
They
2 years ago.
Like, straight up ripped off the theme.
Oh my god.
Not only did they rip off the story, they ripped off the theme.
Oh my god. Oh, that's... I mean, I wouldn't expect anything different, but that's fucking hilarious.
Right? Like, you could hear how close that was.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well,
Did I just blow your mind, AJ?
Yes, you do. You really did.
Thanks. I'm actually really proud of myself for
that's incredible.
That connection.
Yeah. No, that's good ear, fella.
Thanks. Well, the Terminator 2 theme is so ingrained in my brain, especially the dun 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 dun.
Yeah. That's pretty iconic. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, and that brings us to the end of the movie.
Yeah, that's the end. Also, I just want to say, because it has to be on brand with me, this guy looked like a mix of Matt Bomer and Kevin Sorbo.
Well, yeah, that's funny.
Austin.
Yeah, I could see that.
Definitely him.
His main claim to fame was there was a bunch of different Tarzan movies across the course of the 90s.
Yeah.
For television and like a short-lived TV series. He played Tarzan for all of that. So,
yes. Yeah. I did see that.
My lord.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, there are a couple of actors we should mention because we already mentioned Joe Lara, who played Austin, Nicole Hansen, who played Mary, and we have John St. Ryan, who played the Cyborg. Yep. John St. Ryan was in Delta Force 3. Mm-hmm. But there's two other actors we should mention that were in this movie who are sort of canon staples as well. We have Joseph Shillock, who played Akmir in this movie. Joseph Shillock was in Sahara, The Ambassador. He was in Tobe Hooper's Night Terrors, which we just watched.
Yeah.
He was in The Mummy Lives, which is also a late canon film movie we haven't watched yet. And he was in this movie called Chain of Command. And then we also have the actor who played Leech, who honestly we think is the head of the Cannibals, but we're not quite sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Not sure.
That actor's name is Yuri Gavriel.
Yeah.
Who was in the Delta Force.
Right.
He was in The Finest Hour, which is going to be an episode in the next couple of days, or next couple of weeks. He was in Prison Heat.
Yeah.
He was in Night Terrors. He was in The Mummy Lives, and he was also in The Ambassador.
And for more mainstream, he was also the blind fellow in Dark Knight Rises.
Yes,
in the prison area.
Yes. Yeah. So it is interesting, I think, that we have
boy, they really had their staples. They had their stable of
especially towards the end here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the funny thing about this and that's why we need to do it now, and we need to do it
later.
We need to do this episode later, because I think it's going to be interesting. What we see right now is we see the perspective of about 60 or so movies that we've watched, maybe almost 70 movies of canon, and yet putting this final movie into context of all of canon is going to be very fascinating, because I do think that it didn't use all of the tropes of canon.
No, we didn't have boobs.
That we know. No, we didn't. We had a little bit of sexuality, but not overtly. Yeah. And not explicitly. Yeah. And so I think that it's an interesting view of this to say that it is a culmination of all of canon, but also, each movie is unique and like a child. Like a child. There it is. Tied it all together.
Maybe we should release this episode now.
Sure.
And then watch this movie again later.
And we'll pair it up next time.
Yes.
Way down the road.
Yeah. So that's a good plan. Although we should mention, well, first of all, I think this is actually a really hard question to answer, is that idea of what is canon for you, or what would you want to steal?
Okay, yeah.
I have some thoughts. I'm curious what you have.
Well, there was actually a couple of things. For some reason, they did a really good job of shooting with making elevators sort of worrisome.
The elevator set comes back, by the way.
The elevator set comes back.
That's the same elevator, I'm pretty sure.
It definitely
that
is.
She ran away in.
Just during the day instead of at night. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's something. is reuse your sets.
Reusing your sets.
Because they also obviously did, and you go back, we have like...
In Prison Heat, too.
Yeah, you have a rental for like 6 more hours. You should watch that one scene right at the beginning. But yeah, also, there was a beautiful thing that we didn't even talk about. When Mary is on her own, she is crossing a bridge to get to the water area alone.
Isn't Mary always metaphorically crossing a bridge?
Oh, my goodness. Yes. Or she's on a cross.
Hey!
But it was a beautifully shot scene, and it's like 3 seconds long, but it is her silhouetted against a red sky. And I was struck by it. I was just like, that is haunting to me.
There was actually a lot of really beautiful shots in this movie.
There really was.
I really thought Boaz Davidson did some really great work here.
Yeah, he did, absolutely. And I think that he really worked with what he had, honestly. I mean,
I think the 3 crosses scene that you pointed out, too.
It's beautifully done.
The metaphor of that.
Yeah.
And how beautiful it is.
Yeah. I mean, that, and it's so fleeting, and yet I noticed it for the first viewing of it. So hopefully other people did. And I think that also he did as well as he could, and this is absolutely canon, is cutting up of the fights. It's got a very specific feel to it. It's not...
Pace.
The pace and the cutting and all of that just feels very canon to me.
And it's amazing that you say the cutting, because we've got...
you got the editor.
Yes, who's been... with canon on so many movies.
Absolutely.
And so many movies we've already watched that it would make sense that, like, the cutting of it would feel very similar to other stuff.
Yeah, so that's a good place to go to the well of if we'd ever need examples of fighting. So
of, like, how,
Yeah.
Would it be too much to say take everything from this movie?
Yeah. No, not at all. Honestly, it's so canon, man.
It feels so canon.
Yeah.
I thought there was just a lot of, like, really... Like, I thought there was that one big surprise actually got me, which I really loved.
Yeah.
I know it sounds silly. Like, when her name was Mary and the baby, I was like, oh, come on. But when she came out dressed sort of with the veil and the head scarf and everything, and she looked like the Virgin Mary, I actually really liked that.
I've seen less subtler things,
Yes. Well, and that's what I thought was interesting, was, like, it was both on the nose and also kind of subtle. Like, it's weird how it, like, managed to walk both those lines.
Well, funny enough, I mean, maybe I'm just, again, bad at watching movies, but... I didn't notice that her name was Mary until about 20 minutes in, when somebody said it. So that's odd to me.
Because my actual note on that was, her name is Mary. Jesus, I'm dumb. Because, like, it connected
Jesus, you're dumb.
Jesus, I'm dumb. I actually wrote that, which that was not, like, pun
intended, but should have. Yeah.
Yeah, not intended, but it should have been. I also really, thinking back to canon...
Yeah,
I thought this movie did it really well compared to some of the other movies, where this is obviously an amalgamation and ripoff of Terminator 2 and several other movies of its ilk.
Yeah.
I thought what it did really well is, it's clear that it's a ripoff, but it's also different enough in areas where it brings in sort of that Children of Men theme. It brings in a little bit of, like, some of the Matrix, some of the ideas in the Matrix.
Sure.
Some of the ideas of Judge Dredd, where, like, those movies came actually after this movie.
Yeah.
So even as this was ripping off another movie so blatantly and in so many different ways, it still sort of spearheaded and was ahead of its time for, like, 3 or 4 movies that came after it. Which, I gotta give that credit. And I also think, too, just, like, the scene of Ash dying in Alien is so good, and like the white blood thing is so cool.
Sure.
That, like, why not just use that and, like, roll with it?
Well, it's almost like a shorthand of saying, in film, in cinema, can we all agree that androids have white blood?
Well, and it's also a great homage, too, because, like, I think...
that would be it.
I think in a weird way, like, you could probably call the Escape from New York stuff,
sure,
the Alien stuff, the Blade Runner stuff,
yeah,
all of that sort of like 2001: A Space Odyssey, all of that, to me, lands under, like, homage. But then we have, like, blatant ripoff of Terminator 2, where it's like, oh, you stole the plot.
That's the story.
Completely.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think stealing that, I think, look, it's weird because it's different enough that, like...
Well, and the reveal of the fact that he doesn't know.
Yes, well, and that's the thing, too, is, like, they do reinvent it enough where I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you'd steal other than everything?
Just so much. Like, steal everything. This movie felt incredibly canon in a way that very few other canon movies.
Agreed.
I know that sounds weird, but like this movie
but it's
felt
kind of the
so
pinnacle.
Canon.
It is kind of the pinnacle.
And again, I gotta give Boaz Davidson some credit, and like, I'm curious what he could have done with better material. And I think Last American Virgin's a good example where, like, I to this day really thought that movie was fantastic, and I'm so thankful for this podcast.
It hits very, very deeply.
I don't know if I would have ever seen Last American Virgin without this podcast.
No.
And also, too, I don't know if I would have seen this movie without this podcast. And I gotta say, for very different reasons, I am so thankful for this podcast.
Oh, terrifically. Yeah, and funny that it is Boaz.
Yeah.
You know, that hits us in odd ways. Like, I think that he does know how to touch heartstrings.
Yes.
You know, I think that he does, if nothing else, he creates some sort of emotional center to the movie.
Yeah.
And no matter how corny the rest of it is, and no matter how varying the skills of the actors are, I think that you somehow are manipulated into feeling something. So would you recommend this, obviously?
Oh, for me, like, it's hands down. I think
no caveat to me.
Yeah, exactly. No caveat. Like, this is like one you could watch by yourself and enjoy the fuck out. I mean, like, don't expect it to be the greatest movie you've ever seen.
No.
But, like, if you want to watch something that's sort of, like, trashy and fun, and super entertaining from start to finish, you're gonna laugh at parts that are not necessarily supposed to be funny.
Oh, there's a great scene where Mary is going down into the sewer, and there is a really shitty corpse just right next to her, and it's this funniest jump scare attempt.
Great. It's
great.
My
god.
And I felt like that throughout the whole entire movie. Like, I don't, like, try to follow my logic a little bit. Like, I think there have been, up to this point, 2 movies that I loved and thoroughly enjoyed that I did not expect to enjoy. One was Dancers.
Oh, hell yeah.
Was incredibly dramatic and incredibly beautiful.
Yep.
The other one was Doing Time on Planet Earth. And this sort of had that, like, Doing Time on Planet Earth vibe where it's like, it's trashy, it's crazy, but also it's fucking incredible. And I am so happy that I watched it. That's where this lands for me.
Very nice. Yeah.
And the reason I compare it to that more than Dancers is because, like, Dancers is solidly, like, a quality movie.
No, like, stitches that you can see.
So I guess this gets a high recommendation for me.
Clearly,
You?
And me as well. Yeah, I think that this is surprisingly... I mean, if you watched a trailer of it, or you watch something out of context of it, I don't think that you would get the same... Let me put it this way. If I sat down and played this randomly, you know, went into Vudu, went into Netflix or something, and it was just like doing the Russian roulette of, like, scroll, hit it, I'm just going to watch that, which, try that. It's a weird experience. But it's something that I might have tuned away from if not for the feeling of dedication to this movie.
I see what you mean.
You know what I mean? And I think that sitting through it gave me well, again, you know, assigning these to ourselves is really kind of beneficial in one way or another.
Yeah.
So, coolio.
This would also be, to be clear, would be a great party movie.
Oh, hell
like,
yeah.
I
There's
said
a
you could
bunch
probably
of
watch it on your own.
Laugh out loud moments that are just
but it's also
ridiculous.
A great party movie.
Yeah.
But unlike a couple of the things that we've seen recently where I was like,
you have to.
Like, you kind of need to watch it with other people.
Right.
This one, I think, stands either alone or with other people.
Dude, there's Cyborg on Cyborg fights.
Ugh.
Come on.
And the fighting's not bad.
It's not. It's not.
It's not great.
No.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's, you don't understand why the bad Cyborg isn't just completely trouncing him or murdering him immediately.
But then it makes sense.
But it makes sense, yeah.
Oh, one other thing that I want to put into, like, the stealing thing, where I just want to steal it so bad, is radioactive cannibals.
Fuck yeah.
That's all.
That's bizarre. But I love it. Yeah.
All right.
Well, cool.
I mean, this was a winner.
It was. Check plus.
But you know what? I don't know if it's a winner yet.
Oh, do you want to know what is next week?
Yeah, we don't know if it's a winner yet. But
okay,
next week we're going to...
Then I'm going to ask you something.
Yes.
Hey, Nick.
Yes, AJ.
What's going on next week, do you think?
Next week,
yes,
you and I are going to sit down. And we are going to talk about our nightmares.
Ooh. Spooky.
We are going to be talking about the 42nd Street Sleaze classic, Nightmare.
Nice.
This movie was made in 1981.
Okay.
It is actually 21st Century Film Corp movie. It's not canon. And it is also 21st Century Films prior to Menachem Golan taking over. But I think in the spirit of looking at canon and its journey,
sure,
24th Century Film Corp is so tied to canon that we need to start looking at some of their movies as well.
Okay.
To see where they were from and then how Golan changed it.
Interesting. I like the analysis. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic.
So that's what we're taking a look at.
All right. And I believe this is on Amazon Prime?
Yeah, at time of recording, it is on Amazon Prime.
Okay, wonderful.
I always say Amazon Prime for free, but
yeah.
I guess that means you have to have Prime.
With the membership.
For it to be free.
Sure.
If you're not on Amazon Prime, you have to pay for it.
Then you're screwed, man.
But get on that Prime, man.
Get on that Prime. Such a good deal.
It's relatively
free shipping.
cheap.
Yeah.
Comparatively to like Netflix, because it's like, what, $80 a year or something like that?
Are we getting paid for this?
No.
Damn it.
But I'm hoping Amazon hears it.
Right?
And they drop us a solid portion of like the money that they make.
Yeah. Go to amazon.com/creatingcanon. Just kidding. That's not a thing.
Yeah, boy.
Arr, dang it.
I mean, Bezos has got enough money that he could share just the tiniest bit with us, I think.
All right. Next week, Nightmare.
Next week, Nightmare.
All right, that sounds fantastic. I'm excited to see that. Nicholas, where can we follow you?
You could follow me online.
Oh, the
obviously.
line. Cool.
Jesus Christ. Remember when I said my brain was fried? It's still
I do.
fried.
I did.
You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas C. Pappas, and you can find my website at nicholascpappas.com.
Nice.
The website that is forever under construction.
And you can follow me at the AJ Hamilton, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I have a website, theajhamilton.com. More importantly, follow us at Creating Canon. That's CANNON, and email us with any questions, concerns, funny little drawings that you have. Drawings. Creating Canon. That's CANNON.
All right. How do you like my draw?
at gmail.com. And keep LIVIN. And if you want to help us keep LIVIN and you're enjoying this content, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/creatingcanon and contribute. Any little bit helps, and we appreciate it immensely. And as we always say, Nicholas, good night and good canon. Lovely.
Love lie. I did hit it in 3, 2, 1.
Gravy.
Okay. 1, 3, 2.
Dismath sick?
This math is sick, bro. My brain is so fucking melted.
Hey, yo, Nick. What are we doing next time?
Oh, AJ, next time. And it honestly threw me for such a loop.
All right, let's do it then.
Now that I know what we're doing.
Oh, yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you feel like you need to cut that.
Snip, snip.
I think there's also dyslexia for health class.
What's that?
Sexlexia. Oh, now I know what we're doing. Yes, I'm ready.
Shake it out. Shake it out.
Okay, Taylor.